Thank you, everybody, for joining us back here at Nubeva's channel. We're sitting here once again with Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Product, Steve Perkins. And Steve, I heard you guys had a really exciting news release. What can you tell us today?
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. We put out a press release about a new successful decryption that we were involved with. Let me first say that I think while everybody wants to know every detail about this, one of the things that we're learning as we continue to get involved in some of these saves and these rescues is how sensitive the industry and the world has become around the details and the disclosures of the details around incident response. So it's always been in security, right? The best security is obscurity. Don't tell people what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but if you actually think about it, when people are now getting hit by ransomware, one of the first things they do is they call their lawyers and they call their insurance companies, and all of a sudden, massive lockdowns go down around information sharing. You'll probably notice that if you scan and look at most of the articles that are published out there, they never tell you who was the incident response company, what tools were used, what tools or systems were employed, or even what security was in place in the first place that didn't work. You never see any of that. It's in part because, for example, if you pay the ransom, you don't want to necessarily tell the world you paid the ransom. You don't even necessarily want to admit to the world that you actually had an outage if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Now, there's more and more legislation coming down around public disclosure requirements and other things like that. But you'll find that first and foremost, the lawyers control this all. So I can, all that said, I can only tell you so much about this thing because we are finding ourselves getting so locked up around this. And I think that's going to continue. So we're probably going to adopt and take a proactive, strict policy saying, we're not going to disclose a lot of things about customers. Where we can disclose customer names, great. But I think it's going to more, and so we'll start reporting things like customer counts and things like that, and logos where we can. But very rarely will we be able to say, hey, I just saved ABC company, and here they are to talk about it. Not going to probably happen. That's my marketing challenge.
Makes sense.
All right.
So I guess the one thing you can say, because it's here in the news release that I really like, is the word success. So tell us as much as you can about that part of it.
Okay. So public school, large scale ransoming, operationally down. So, and you might say, well, it's just a school. It's like, well, I don't know. Schools are daycare for a lot of adults.
Yeah.
Right. It's paid public daycare for a lot of people. And it's actually, by the way, in the US considered to be critical infrastructure because of that. Right. And enables people to go to work and do their jobs and things like that, let alone is taking care of our children. All right. So they're down. It turns out they were hit by Rust. I'm sorry, by Hive, and a Rust-based version of Hive. And let me explain that. So Hive has been around since the middle of last year, at least. They're a ransomware gang. Not sure exactly who's in charge of it. It turns out, if you read on them, they've been evolving rapidly. They are at the forefront of ransomware as a service, which means there's people in the center creating ransomware cores, and then there's like franchisees that are using that software all around in different ways. So there's all these little subsidiaries using Rust-based attacks. I'm sorry, I keep on saying Rust. It's Hive-based attacks. Now, I keep on saying Rust because very recently, in the past, people figured out how to crack Hive. They had actually made some mistakes in their code, and some very smart people figured out how to reverse engineer their code and say, oh, here's how you crack it. Well, more recently, they've actually are at the forefront of rewriting ransomware using a state-of-the-art language called Rust, which is very efficient and makes it extremely hard, if not impossible, to reverse engineer and figure out how they're doing their stuff. So this was a leading edge, brand new, never seen before variant of Hive, the Rust-based version. Fundamentally, we were able to decrypt it. So we were our software and our technology, and then the services we laid on top of it. We were not only able to decrypt it, we were able to decrypt every single bit and byte, and we were able to do that start to finish within 72 hours, which is kind of unheard of. I mean, if you went to pay the ransom, it will take you anywhere from 5 to 15 days to negotiate, anywhere from 3 to 5 days just to pay the Bitcoin, right? I don't know if you have a lot of Bitcoin laying around, but to say, I got to get it in my wallet, I got to push it to them and exchange it. The paying is a slow process.
Yeah.
In this case, also, they didn't have good backups, and the backups that they had were corrupted. So there was significant data loss, right? So operationally down, backups were insufficient. They were looking at paying ransom. We're there to the rescue, being able to decrypt. So that we call success in a big way.
Oh, for sure. I think if people look at this and see public school attack and think, what's the big deal? It's a pretty big deal. That is critical infrastructure, and I guarantee the security was probably not very up to snuff in general. I mean, I went to public school. I don't know about you, Steve,
I
but
did too. I did too. But well, in that front, right, there was a college in the U.S. That was actually went out of business because they had a sustained ransomware event and they could not recover. Right,
yeah,
they literally shut down their doors. It was a travesty, right? So these are general operating entities, and whether it be public sector that or local government, they're all at risk.
that's a good point. And it's really good to see you guys going mano a mano with the state of the art. I don't know what you would state of the art, the right word for it. State of the art kind of ransomware is going on right now. I know there's a lot of different types out there, so this is a success. I know you can't talk about too much about the details, but that's the key
Yeah.
takeaway for me. And if anyone else has any questions about it, please don't be afraid to ask. But Steve, related to other news, anything else going on with the company?
Yeah, I think there's one thing I should probably just put out there at sort of the personal level. So that is that this week I've initiated a very minor sell of some of my position in stock. It's not even a single digit, I don't think. I didn't do the exact math, but I don't consider it material. But I will be putting out a filing on that at the end of the week or Monday as soon as that's done. Just wanted to make sure that that we disclose that since we were doing this call. Figured I would put that out there. For what it's worth, the reasons why I'm doing that and the use of funds are fairly simple. I'm going to be paying some taxes. I am going to be actually exercising and holding some options that I've had. Just a small amount, but there's some AMT taxes in the U.S. that's associated with that too, and I've got some small personal expenses that I need to cover. So in no way do I want any investors to read into this in any way that I have any loss or lack of confidence. I received the green light that there's no material news that I am trading this on. This is just sheerly a tactical move that I need to do.
Perfect, Steve. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your insight on this. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, if you have any questions at all, don't be afraid to send them over to us, and stay tuned for another update coming soon. Steve, anything else before we go?
No, that's it. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a wonderful day.
You too.